Shocking images surface from an upscale Delhi suburb, Noida. A woman has been caught on camera roughing up her domestic help. The woman stands accused of assaulting her domestic help in an elevator. The domestic help apparently abused and reportedly confined for quite some time. That's the information that's coming in. That's the initial complaint that's been made to the police. CCTV images have gone viral online. Noida police say they've swung into action and have registered a complaint. The victim was sent for medical examination. The Noida police say they've filed a complaint. They're probing these shocking images that you see on your television screen. We will get you much more on this big story. Also on India First, Pakistan economy in tailspin. The Pakistani rupee has fallen to a new low against the US dollar, and Pakistan government now wants to sell a Pakistan government-owned building in upmarket Washington, D.C. in the United States of America. The opposition in Pakistan smells a scam. I'm Gaurav Sawant. As always, you're watching India First. Let's get started with the headlines at 10. Government swings into COVID fight-back mode. Mock drills conducted across the country. Health Minister Mansukh Mandavia reviews India's preparedness. Family and friends bid farewell to Tunisha Sharma. New video shows the 20-year-old actor being carried by her ex-boyfriend Shizan moments after she died by suicide. Actor Sushant Singh Rajput death mystery deepens. Mortuary staff claims the actor was murdered, says he saw injury marks on the actor's eye and body. Rahul Gandhi dons just a t-shirt in Delhi cold wave. Congress Neta Salman Khurshid compares Rahul Gandhi to Maryada Purushottam Shri Ram. Later clarifies, says there can be no comparison of Rahul with Shri Ram. BJP mocks Rahul Gandhi and the analogy with Shri Ram. After Karnataka, Maharashtra passes a resolution on border controversy, lays claim to 865 villages. Karnataka Chief Minister calls it a violation of India's federal system. The images we are about to show you are disturbing and we urge viewer discretion. Videos of a woman reportedly being roughed up and holding another woman hostage against her will have gone viral online. Look at those images on your television screen. These images are reportedly from an upscale Noida suburb, Clio County. This society is in sector 120 of Noida, where a lady is seen reportedly roughing up her domestic help. That domestic help is seen in these elevator CCTV images being held against her will. Now, as soon as the society security guard saw this drama unfold in the elevator, the police were informed and the victim was rescued. Hours later, these images went viral where the domestic help, now her name apparently is Anita, she's 20 years old, and you can see the other image where she's showing her bruises and her injury marks. She has reportedly told the police that she was kept confined in the house against her will and was assaulted. She tried to run away from the house but was caught and detained. Police, on the basis of the complaint filed by the victim's father, have filed an initial report and they've sent the victim, Anita, for medical examination. The lady of the house, incidentally, has told the police that the maid apparently tried to mix sleeping pills in their food and was caught red-handed trying to flee. Apparently, according to the lady of the house, she indulged in theft in the house and when caught was desperately trying to run away.
थाना फेज 3 में एक वादी पदम सिंह द्वारा बताया गया कि उनकी लड़की जो क्लियो काउंटी सोसाइटी में एक महिला शेफाली कौल के यहाँ एज ए डोमेस्टिक हेल्प काम करती है, उसको शेफाली कौल द्वारा बंधक बनाया गया और मारपीट करी गई। इस संबंध में सूचना प्राप्त होते ही थाना फेज 3 पर मुकदमा लिखा जा चुका है। इस पूरे प्रकरण में जो बाकी एविडेंसेस मिलेंगे उसके अकॉर्डिंग विधिक कार्रवाई पूरे प्रकरण में करी जाएगी।
क्या सच्चाई है?
दिखाइए कहाँ पे है मारपीट? आपने किस सीसीटीवी कैमरा में फुटेज में देखा मारपीट करते हुए? किसी को लिफ्ट से जब इसको गार्डों ने पकड़ा और उन्होंने मुझे हैंडओवर किया, इसमें सीसीटीवी कैमरा में सिर्फ ये दिख रहा है कि इसको मैं लिफ्ट से बाहर खींच रही हूँ। बाहर खींचने में और मारपीट करने में बहुत फर्क है। आप दोनों चीजों को मिक्स कर रहे हैं।
राइट मैम, ये बोल रहा हूँ कि आप
एक सेकंड पहले मैं आप ही की बात को क्लियर करती हूँ
जी।
आप मुझे स्क्रीनशॉट भेजेंगे कि जहाँ पर आपकी नजरों से इसको मारपीट करते हुए दिखाया गया है?
जी।
पहली बात मुझे बताइए, अगर हमारा 1 मई से एग्रीमेंट था 6 महीने का, लड़की के साथ हमारा 6 महीने का एग्रीमेंट है, इसका बाप 50,000 रुपए एडवांस में ले चुका है
जी।
तो मुझे बताइए इसकी माँ ने और बाप ने जुलाई में कंप्लेंट क्यों की कि हमारी बेटी बंधक है?
अच्छा, मतलब आपका कहना है कि आपने बंधक नहीं बनाया है, ये झूठा आरोप है।
एग्रीमेंट है हमारे पास, आपको मैं एग्रीमेंट की कॉपी भेज चुकी हूँ। आपके पास एग्रीमेंट की कॉपी मिल गई है?
जी।
आपने देखी भी है?
जी मैम, ये बोल रहा हूँ कि आखिर ऐसा क्या सिचुएशन आया था कि लिफ्ट से जो वो सीसीटीवी जो आया है वो है क्या? क्यों ये जो गार्ड रोक रहे थे?
नहीं, वो आप पहले का भी बताइए कि जो मैंने आपको पिक्चर भेजी, लड़की ने 25 तारीख को मेरे कमरे का सीसीटीवी कैमरा जो है डिस्कनेक्ट किया है।
अच्छा,
ठीक है। मेरी अलमारी में से ज्वेलरी चोरी करके आपको मैंने एक और सीसीटीवी फुटेज भेजा है जो इसने फ्रिज में रखी थी डिस्पोजेबल वाले टिश्यू में।
ओके।
वहाँ से वो निकाल के बालकनी से नीचे फेंक रही है। फिर एक और फोटोग्राफ आपको भेजी गई है जो मैंने नहीं, जो सिक्योरिटी जो हमारी सोसाइटी की गार्डों ने खींची है।
अच्छा।
जहाँ पे इसने दुपट्टों की सीढ़ी बनाई, वो सॉरी रस्सी बना के नीचे कूदी है 4थी मंजिल से।
And joining me for more on India First is India Today's Arvind Ojha, who broke the story for us. Arvind, इस मामले में और क्या निकल कर आ रहा है? क्या कोई तथ्य है कि इस महिला के घर चोरी का प्रयास किया गया या नींद की गोलियां आटे में मिलाकर खिलाई गई?
देखिए, जो इंडिया टुडे ने शेफाली कौल जिनके खिलाफ एफआईआर दर्ज हुई है उनसे बातचीत की, और बातचीत का जो आखिरी हिस्सा है वो अगर आपने सुना हो तो उनका क्लेम ये है कि जो मेड है वो 4th फ्लोर से दुपट्टे बांधकर नीचे उतरने की कोशिश कर रही थी। तो आखिर ऐसी क्या सिचुएशन आई कि मेड को मेन एंट्री गेट से ना जाकर 4th फ्लोर से नीचे आना पड़ा? क्या उसे वाकई बंधक बनाया गया था या नहीं बनाया गया था? ऐसी क्या मजबूरी थी मेड के सामने? ये तमाम चीजों की इन्वेस्टिगेशन नोएडा पुलिस कर रही है। नोएडा पुलिस को जो विक्टिम है उसके फादर ने बकायदा एक कंप्लेंट किया कि उनकी को 6 महीने से बंधक बनाया गया था, जिसके बाद नोएडा पुलिस ने एफआईआर रजिस्टर किया। विक्टिम को कुछ इंजरी भी आई है, जिस पर हमने जब अक्यूज जो शेफाली कौल है उनसे पूछा तो उनका कहना है कि वो भागने की कोशिश कर रही थी, इस वजह से गिर गई और इस वजह से इंजरी आई है। जो आरोप लगे हैं वो पूरी तरह से बेबुनियाद है। 50,000 रुपए उनको उन्होंने दिए थे मेड को रखने के लिए, 6 मंथ का एग्रीमेंट था। लेकिन अब चूंकि ये पूरा मामला नोएडा पुलिस के पास आ चुका है, जो मेड है उसका मेडिकल एग्जामिनेशन भी कराया जा चुका है, उसके बाद एफआईआर रजिस्टर्ड हो चुकी है। जबकि जो शेफाली कौल जिनके खिलाफ एफआईआर रजिस्टर्ड हुई है उनका कहना है कि उन्हें फंसाया जा रहा है, जो आरोप है वो पूरी तरह से झूठे हैं।
अरविंद, इस खबर पर आप नजर बनाए रखिए, ताजा जानकारी के लिए फिर मैं आपके पास लौटूंगा। फिलहाल धन्यवाद। शिफ्टिंग फोकस टू आवर टॉप स्टोरी, Pakistan is in tailspin. The economy is in free fall. Foreign exchange reserves as on date are less than $7 billion, barely enough to cover 1 month of imports. There are severe restrictions now that are being placed by the Shahbaz Sharif government on imports and the use of fuel. There is also an acute shortage of even basic medicines like vitamin C, paracetamol and diabetes medicines, according to media reports from Pakistan. Amidst these reports, Pakistan's Foreign Office has given a nod for the sale of a prime Pakistan government building in the heart of Washington, D.C. And this has led to a furor in Pakistan. Pakistan Mission building in Washington, D.C. up for sale. Pakistan sells family jewels to remain afloat. Pakistan rupee nosedives. to 226 Pakistani rupees to a dollar. Pak foreign exchange reserves plummet to less than $7 billion. Pakistan puts severe restrictions on imports to save foreign exchange. There is shock and anger in Pakistan over the Shahbaz Sharif government's decision to sell off prime Pakistan government property in Washington, D.C., United States of America. Pakistan Embassy in the United States has received a nod from the Bilawal Bhutto-led Foreign Office to sell its old building, which was lying vacant for the last decade and a half, ARY News reported in Pakistan. The prime property in the heart of Washington, D.C. had been purchased in the 1950s, and the decision is as controversial as the planned sale of the Roosevelt Hotel in New York.
अमेरिका में पाकिस्तानी सिफारत खाने की पुरानी इमारत फरोख्त करने का फैसला कर लिया गया.
Pakistan appears to be on the brink of collapse and desperately requires funds infusion from either the International Monetary Fund or Saudi Arabia to remain afloat. Inflation in Pakistan is at an historic high of 42%, and foreign exchange reserves now stand at $6.7 billion, barely enough for 1 month's imports. Media reports say there is now a shortage of even basic medicines in Pakistan.
मुल्क में एक बार फिर जान बचाने वाली अद्वियात की शदीद किल्लत पैदा हो गई है. खास तौर पर पंजाब में मरीजों को ब्लड प्रेशर, शुगर, खून पतला करने वाली दवाएं मिलना मुश्किल होता जा रहा है. भाई मुझे तो यहाँ पैनाडोल नहीं मिल रही.
As Pakistan's economy collapses, terror is on the rise. There have been multiple terror strikes, including a suicide attack in capital Islamabad. The past weeks have seen multiple attacks on Pakistan Army and security forces in Balochistan, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and even Pakistan's Punjab province. The Pakistan Army and security forces are being regularly attacked along the AFPAC border, with Taliban fighters taking down the fencing along the AFPAC Durand line repeatedly. Bureau Report, India Today. So first, the Pakistan government's plan to sell the Roosevelt Hotel in New York and then a government building in Washington, D.C. Symbolic or serious measures taken by the Shahbaz Sharif government? Is Pakistan on the verge of defaulting? Joining me on India First, Mona Alam, a senior journalist, joins us from Pakistan. Dr. Shalini Chawla is a distinguished fellow at the Center for Air Pass Studies. Also with us is Ambassador Prabhu Dayal, former diplomat and Consul General both in Pakistan and in the United States of America. Mona Alam, I want to begin by asking you, what's happening? Why this need to sell prime property in Washington, D.C.?
Thank you, Gaurav. I tend to agree with the report that you played in your preamble. The situation is indeed really critical for Pakistan's economy, and this seems to be an economic whirlpool, as I like to call it, because there doesn't seem to be a way out. The government, by and large, is trying to cut off its non-development expenditure, but I don't think it's doing enough. If this building, I'm not aware how useful or how resourceful this building is, but if this is just a dormant building and if it is indeed using a lot of our foreign reserves to keep it jacked up, then I think it is the right decision to sell it off. But I still think the government is not doing enough, because the non-development expenditure is not being cut to the levels that it should have been done. Shahbaz Sharif's cabinet is swelling day by day. It has reached, I think, the figure of 80 or near 80, because there is an induction of a minister or a state minister or a federal minister every other day, because this entire government is based around, I think, 12, 13 parties, and each one of them wants a share in the pie. So this is how it is, and it is really unfortunate. I mean, I've been traveling for the last couple of 2-3 days, and I saw the national flag carrier of Pakistan, the PIA, being bombarded with MNAs and senators. I mean, people from our parliament who are using the national flag carrier and the national airline of Pakistan as though it's a bus, and using it for their free ride. So it doesn't make sense. I mean, this is just a small instance that I'm quoting, but there are.
You're saying that Pakistan is virtually being bled dry by its leadership. Dr. Chawla, is this selling family jewels to remain afloat as far as Pakistan is concerned. What do you make of the financial situation in Pakistan?
I mean, yeah, you gave a very, fantastic figures and everything. So definitely there is the economic crisis extremely severe, where the reserves have gone down to 6.7 billion and not enough to fund 8.8 billion of principal and internal payments during January and March next year. And we have the FDIs which have been down for a long time now. And I mean, there are little positive signs that we see. So the developments that we see now are obviously cutting down the development expenditure and not essential expenditures. That's been happening. So definitely the situation is serious, and there is some hope which has come from its partners like China and Saudi Arabia, and there is a commitment of $13 billion from there. So that might be able to create some breathing space for Pakistan.
Okay.
But right now the crisis that we see, I think that's going to have very long-term impact on the economic, social and the overall situation. It's not going to be an easy crisis for Pakistan to
It
deal
hasn't
with
been for quite some time. In fact, Ambassador Dayal, restrictions on import, foreign exchange reserves down to $6.7 billion. What's your reading of Pakistan's financial health and the government? You know, these PDM, so many parties coming together to form a government, and as Mona very rightly pointed out, they too seem to be milking the country dry, as is, as some argue, the Pakistan army.
Well, indeed, the situation has been very correctly described by Pakistan's Dawn newspaper. About 2 weeks ago, it carried an article which was captioned, Pakistan's macroeconomic mess. And the article pointed out that Pakistan's external debt servicing stands at about 60% of its exports,
Yes,
which contrasts with just about 12% a decade ago. The foreign debt of Pakistan has now jumped to a record high of about $265 billion. And all this comes in the wake of, first of all, the party of Imran Khan having said that it was going to cut down expenditure, but ultimately the debt of Pakistan became the highest ever in the history of Pakistan during the rule of Imran Khan. And then it has become worse. The situation has worsened during the present government of Shehbaz Sharif. And as you rightly pointed out, there are fears and suspicions, and there are accusations that the various constituents of the government are milking the system for their own benefit. Now, as a diplomat, I find it strange that a sovereign country is selling its properties abroad. I have never come across any country doing so, except when it is in dire financial states.
yes.
And unfortunately, Pakistan seems to be in that situation. It is in dire financial straits and is trying to sell off its foreign properties to
Mona
meet
Alam,
requirements.
Okay, Mona Alam, inflation, we are told, stands at 42%. Atta, according to a report in a Pakistani newspaper that I was reading, was 150 Pakistani rupees a kg. Is Pakistan going under, or are you expecting a bailout either from IMF or Saudi Arabia or China? But what would this mean? Would China take away another chunk of Pakistan?
Look, apparently there doesn't seem to be a way out, because as far as reports are concerned, we've been hearing that even Saudi Arabia has not agreed to pay off or to bail out Pakistan in these present circumstances. And they're telling us to get a waiver from the IMF first, get a go-ahead from the IMF first, because the program is still in a stalemate. We still need to get a go-ahead for this recent installment that they need to give us according to the program that we're in. So even Saudi Arabia wants to first take that go-ahead from IMF, and then they'd be in a position to help us or not help us. I mean, they still haven't given us a green signal. And unfortunately, even the political parties here in Pakistan are not willing to, take a step back from the current positions that they're in. Nobody is willing to give the political stability that the country needs. Imran Khan's government was ousted when it was, I think, well into its 4th year. They weren't allowed to complete their term. And now that the new government has come in and they have ousted Imran Khan's government, Now Imran Khan doesn't want them to complete the term, and it's an unfortunate state. I mean, as long as this political turmoil and instability will continue, I do not see a way out of the economic quagmire, because our attentions and our concentrations are extremely diverted and distracted. We're focusing on non-important, unimportant, non-essential issues, and we do not seem to still get a hang of the sword that's hanging on our heads.
Dr. Chawla, will either China or Saudi Arabia bail Pakistan out, or will China, as has China's history been, extract its pound of flesh, perhaps like it did with the Shakskan Valley or Gilgit or Baltistan or Balochistan, and bleed Pakistan dry even further?
So, see, Gaurav, right now, obviously, China and Saudi Arabia combined have given assurance of $13 billion, and which will amount to close to about 38% of the estimated gross external financing requirements for 22-23, which can avoid the potential collapse of economic collapse. That's my understanding. But to your question about China, see, China will, I think that support we will see coming for some time, because for China, Pakistan is a strategic extension. It's a strategic extension. They have very high stakes in the economic stability of Pakistan, and we will see that support from China increasing, is my view. Obviously, there is economic pressure on China as well. So there are very natural questions which come, that for how long China will do. But I think this association with China, the strategic support from China will continue for a long time, because for China, Pakistan is very different from what Sri Lanka is to China or the African countries are for China, because it definitely sees it as a partner to contain India and to balance US influence in the region. So given those issues, and also CPEC investment that we see in Pakistan, over $60 billion commitment, obviously it hasn't come that much, but China definitely has high stakes in the stability of Pakistan.
Since you mentioned the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, Ambassador Dayal, CPEC Ambassador Dayal was touted as a solution to every problem that Pakistan faced financially. But is the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor actually becoming a millstone around Pakistan's neck?
Well, Pakistan's economic woes have increased considerably because of its indebtedness to China due to the CPEC. In fact, if I may put it bluntly, Pakistan is becoming an economic colony of China. This is a form of neo-colonialism, and China is adept at practicing it. It has given loans to various countries, such as Sri Lanka, for instance, and now Pakistan. And these loans are causing such huge indebtedness that the country virtually loses its capacity to make sovereign decisions. That is unfortunately what is happening in the case of Pakistan. This is out and out neo-colonialism of
Mona Alam, is that also your appreciation? Neo-colonialism, is that what is happening? Or is there a go slow on Chinese projects in CPEC? One, because of funding. Two, because of terror. CPEC projects apparently are being targeted not just in Balochistan but also other parts of Pakistan, ma'am.
No, I'd beg to differ, because for China, I can say this from the horse's mouth. This particular government, which is, the primary party here is the PMLN, and this particular party is the one which had initiated or had signed CPEC in the previous tenure. But these days, not to my surprise, they're not even talking about CPEC much. They used to talk about CPEC all the time back in their previous times, and now when we even ask them about the entire project, they tell us to keep it hush-hush and to keep it low-key, because they're trying to normalize their ties with the US. So this is what they're looking to do, and this is something that I'm quoting you from the horse's mouth, because Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto has been quite keen on normalizing the situation with USA, and he's been in USA and he's been lobbying for Pakistan, as you may all know as well. So this is not the time that Pakistan seeks to get warmer or to get closer with China. Rather, the picture or the portrayal that's been given out here is entirely opposite to what indeed is the reality. Because China, we do not want to get any closer to China. Government is actually on record for having said that they want to keep it low-key when it comes to CPEC.
Okay. Dr. Chawla, is China-Pakistan Economic Corridor then in trouble, especially with this recent spike in attacks, including at an oil dump in Gwadar and the repeated targeting of security forces in Balochistan?
So this has definitely created some issues, but the bottom line in terms of how much of potential these issues have, one, to dent complete, pause the CPEC, and secondly, how much of impact it will have on the overall relationship. So definitely the first part, it has impacted the projects to some extent. The projects have been slowed down because of multiple other issues. Attacks is not the factor, I would say. But secondly, if you see the overall relationship, the strategic alliance between China and Pakistan, I don't think that's going to change with these attacks. So that's my reading, because that alliance is too deep, and the objectives of both the countries will not change because of the repeated attacks which we have seen there.
Okay.
So that doesn't have the potential, I think, to dent this alliance, but definitely to some extent the projects definitely get slowed down because of that, and multiple other factors, the economy in Pakistan,
when Taliban took over Afghanistan, there were celebrations in Pakistan, and I want our viewers to look at those images. I want our viewers to look at those images of then DG ISI at the Serena Hotel enjoying a cup of tea. Now, those celebrations, it seems, were premature. It now appears that appears to have boomerang completely on Pakistan, the Taliban takeover.
Well, Pakistan's problems with Afghanistan seem to be mounting, and the Taliban are not going to play Pakistan's game is something that they have indicated. But to come back very quickly to the China factor, Pakistan's indebtedness to China is already so huge. It has to service the loans. Yes. It doesn't have the money, so it keeps seeking moratoriums. And it seeks more money from China, as was mentioned by you in your introductory remarks. So Pakistan will not find it easy to pull away from the Chinese grasp, no matter how much it wants to do so, because the financial debt will keep it under China's sway.
Yes. And America has made it very clear, Mona, I'm sure you're well aware of it, that any money that America or IMF give to Pakistan should not be given to China. And that puts Pakistan in a very difficult position, Mona. What also has gone wrong with Pakistan's policy in Afghanistan? The Serena Hotel pictures, everyone was hailing ISI, and suddenly the same Taliban are killing your people. We have that entire list of terror attacks that have taken place in Waziristan, in Gwadar, in Bannu, in Balochistan again, in North Waziristan, in Islamabad, and on the Afghan border, Mona.
That's correct, because as far as China's position is concerned, I'm happy to see that there is some inclination in other comments as well to what I've mentioned earlier regarding China and the pace of CPEC projects in the country. And you're right, because the IMF or the US does not want Pakistan to spend anything on CPEC projects of what it'll borrow or what it'll lend us. So this is a fact, this is a reality, and this is a tightrope walk that diplomatically Pakistan has to do, and Pakistan is indeed doing. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's cabinet does seem in a fix when it comes to this particular tightrope walk between balancing the act between China and the US. Now, having said that, if I'd like to go to the second part of your question, for Afghanistan, look, I wouldn't say that the celebrations were premature, because this is a matter of fact that the US or the NATO alliance at that point in time had no control over Afghanistan, despite spending those many years, and this is one reason why they were fled out, or why they were pushed out from the country. So Pakistan, yes, we did celebrate the fact that a majority government has come in Afghanistan, but I am concerned about the state of affairs that there are in Pakistan, especially regarding women rights, or especially regarding minority rights.
And the targeting of Pakistan Army soldiers all along the AFPAC border and now inside Pakistan. But we'll be tracking that story very closely. Mona Alam, Dr. Chawla and Ambassador Dayal, as always, many thanks for joining me on India First.